Mike Bernard joins us every Sunday morning to recap some college football before he gets into his NFL day. Mike, how are you doing?
Doing well, Coach. Glad the cold weather moved away for a bit.
Yeah, it's nice all over right now. Nice dry, little slight breeze up here in North Alabama. Now, I will have to say I would thank you for getting up early, but you've been up a lot longer than I have. So just thank you for taking time out of your day and getting with us. Let's get right into yesterday. Last night, South Carolina 30, Texas A&M 24. A&M 3-4 on the season right now. Of course, they were 8-4 last year. They didn't go to a bowl game because of the COVID scare, which
Right.
I think you and I both think that was a bogus reason not to go play Wake Forest. Basically, they didn't want to end up 8-5 last year. That's where they were going to be. This year, now at 3-4 with Ole Miss, Florida, Auburn, and LSU remaining, they're going to be very, very fortunate to go 500 right now. Carolina on their first 4-game win streak in 9 years. Some guy by the name of Spurrier was coaching the Gamecocks the last time they won 4 in a row. You have to give a tip of the hat to Shane Beamer. He has come in. He has re-energized that South Carolina program, and they're playing Beamer ball. Named after his dad, of course. They're just making great special teams play. They're playing. You can tell this team is coached in a way that they want to play fundamentally sound. Now, are they totally there yet? No, but you can tell a huge difference in where South Carolina is today versus where they were just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and you talked about Beamer ball. North Carolina State and Virginia Tech, when Frank Beamer was there, they were the top two special teams programs by far in all the country for decades, 2 decades, in fact. In this game, Carolina was up 17 to nothing, 5 minutes into the game. Then the Aggies cut it to 17 to 14 at the half. They looked like they had a good chance there. They got a lot of pressure on Rattler, but their offense was anemic again. And it didn't help that, once they were down 24-21, Haynes King was knocked out of the game. They finished the last 13 minutes of the game with a true freshman under center. May not have even mattered. Gamecocks get a good win. And South Carolina, they lost to Georgia 48-7. They beat Texas A&M. That shows again the big divide of where the Aggies are and where they want to be.
Yeah, they started out the last two seasons ranked sixth, and they're going to be lucky to be ranked 60th by the time this year is over. Moving out west, Oregon 45, UCLA 30. The Bruins fell behind early and just really never could get in a rhythm and get back in the game. Both are now 6-1. Bo Nix, 22 of 28, 283 yards, 5 touchdowns. He already has 12 touchdowns on the year. The most he got at Auburn in a whole season was 16. He just seems so much more relaxed, so much more comfortable than he was playing at Auburn.
Yeah, he was solid in this game. Ducks have now won 4 straight over the Bruins. They've won 10 of 11 in that series. Oregon closed as a 7-point favorite. The total was 71, so it went Ducks get an easy cover, and the game sails over. Talking about Bo Nix, Coach, you and I had many discussions about it. On the air and off, there was so much pressure, a lot of it, self-induced on Bo Nix at Auburn. Now, I think the all that pressure is paying off because, again, he's made mistakes, but he fights through it and brings his team back to win. And, of course, they had an easy time with UCLA, which surprised many.
The game that started yesterday off for most of the country, Clemson 27, Syracuse 21. Now, I'm going to take absolutely nothing away from the Tigers and the way that they fought back, but it's 21-10 Syracuse, and then there was a game changer. And the game changer wasn't made on the field by the players. The game changer was a flag. And there were two calls, one right at the end of the third quarter, one at the beginning of the fourth quarter. Clemson's quarter, it's 3rd and 24, somewhere like that, 3rd and 21, 3rd and 24. Clemson's quarterback's pressured out of the pocket. He's running down the sideline. Syracuse defensive tackle, I mean, it is right on the cusp of the sideline, and he doesn't give him a shot. He just gives him a little nudge, and the kid falls down. Here comes the flag, okay? And this is on the Syracuse sideline. Here comes the flag. It prolongs the drive. Clemson scores. Now, Syracuse has the ball, and it's 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5. And Schrader is, again, sprinting toward the sideline. He gets the pass off. The Clemson player makes contact with him, carries him, and there's contact taking Schrader, the Syracuse quarterback, over toward the stadium area, toward the bench area. And he ends up on the ground. No flag, no nothing. And I don't care. I cared less. Couldn't care less who won this game. But if you're going to make that call, the 2 series before, you've got to make it again. It is the same official. Either call it, don't call it. It doesn't matter. But both calls should have been the same. The NCAA and the conferences, they've got to get consistent on calls. Listen, look what happened to Bryce Young at Tennessee. He was taking shots, and again,
massive shots.
But now, hey, being a defensive guy, I don't even think those should have been roughing the passer. But again, that's me, a defensive guy. But look at those calls that weren't called in the Tennessee game. Last night, the Bulldogs could blow on Bryce Young, and he fall over, and here comes the flags. Penn State, in the Penn State game with Minnesota, no pass interference calls unless it happened to be, again, this inconsistency. I just cannot get over how inconsistent that the officiating has become, and it is blatant inconsistency.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it's worse, if the officiating is worse, or if it's just showing up in more marquee games now. But all those instances you pointed out, I saw the inconsistency there. Of course, it's a human decision, right? Where it's not a computer, and that's going to happen. But when it's the same official seeing the same exact play, and then one gets called, the other doesn't, that's very frustrating, especially for the teams that are playing. And in this game, Clemson did not look like a top 5 team. But remember, their title teams with Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, they also had losses in games like this where they looked, frankly, mediocre.
No team in the country is more improved from week 1 than LSU. And I will stand on the street corner and shout that all day long. What the LSU team that met Florida State and lost on special teams errors in that game, they are night and day from where they were. They get by, or I say they don't get by, they take care of business, 45-20 over Ole Miss. The Rebs, they jumped up early. It looked like Lane Kiffin was going to have another one of those offensive firepower days. I actually thought that Ole Miss would outscore LSU in this game. So kudos to the LSU defense, but also Jaden Daniels. He just took over down 14 points. And again, don't dismiss Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. Now, I will be the first one to admit that his analytics and his decisions on analytics sometimes puzzle me, but they're a good football team. They're going to win 9-10 games in the SEC West. But you have to give the respect to Brian Kelly and his staff for what he's done. They're capable of winning out, and that includes Alabama. And right now, they were laughing at him, but those Cajuns now, they don't mind that family accent so much.
Yeah, that's – and, hey, the Tigers were a very popular pick from sharp bettors this week, and they delivered. And they're 1 win away from getting their season win total. That was one of our big plays early. And they're going to get there on that. Whether they win out or how many wins they get is still to be determined. But it all goes back to Brian Kelly. That preseason win total bet was because he's there.
And before we move on, I'm going to get on my second soapbox today and rant a little bit because if you saw the game, you saw the LSU fans, students, and everything come down on the field. Okay, now I have mixed emotions about this, uh, but I will say this. Let me just say, fans, keep your ass off the field. If you want to get on the field so bad, sign up, become a walk on, find out what's going on, earn your place out there. Again, it did not look like there was destruction of property at LSU like there was up in Knoxville last week, the Alabama game. And you have situations like Jermaine Burton. He's coming off the field, and there's a video of him putting his hand up and pushing a fan away, and it is a female fan that's running out on the field. If you have not been in that situation, don't judge Jermaine Burton, because I can tell you from personal experience that it is very unnerving to have that many people coming down on top of you at one time. You don't know if they mean harm to you or not. And you really do not have time to ascertain in a lot of situations who's coming at you and what their intentions are. Now, in some of the lower divisions, and even at Clemson, I saw Lester, a lot of the fans come down on the field at Clemson. I've got no problem with the fans coming out on the field after the game in an orderly manner, and I have absolutely no problem with that. Now, I will say, keep your butts away from the sideline, especially at Division One. These guys have hundreds of $1,000s worth of equipment, and you don't have any idea the number of stories that I can tell you where equipment, headsets, extra helmets, cleats, everything have just been taken by fans coming down on the field. But again, the whole thing with me is just it's not necessarily the fans being on the field, but it is rushing the field. It creates an unsafe environment, not only for the players and the coaches and the support staff, and the stadium staff, the security staff, but it creates an unsafe situation for the fans. A goalpost, they may look like they're really real light and people are carrying them around. Those things, if they hit you on the way down full force, you're dead.
Well, that's my thought, is if they don't do something to stop this, or at least curb it, someone's going to get severely hurt or even killed. Now, we've seen them institute rules and regulations for you can't storm the court after a basketball games. There's severe fines. They have better security. And obviously a football field is going to have more fans. It's going to have a bigger area to police. But you're right. I've got a feeling that it's going to take some tragedy before they get serious about a rule on it.
Last night, Oklahoma State 41, Texas 34. Longhorns, they faced a mad team. Quinn Ewers, the Texas quarterback, it looked so sharp against Alabama before he was injured, looked great against Oklahoma. 3 INTs yesterday. Cowboys, they harassed him all day. Driving to tie the game very late, had a tip ball. It was intercepted, but he had 12 overthrows all day, and they were open receivers. And he just did not have a good game yesterday. But again, that was Texas. That was their 5th straight road loss. And the Cowboys, I'm not going to say they put themselves back in the conversation for the playoffs, but at least they got themselves back into the room where the conversation is happening about the playoffs.
Yeah, and the Big 12 is going to have a challenge getting in, but you're right. Now they have a chance to win out and win that conference. Ewers, his numbers were terrible, but Texas was in control of the game. So, that's a typical Mike Gundy team performance. They don't panic, because, again, Ewers, his numbers were not good. They were in control of the game. The Cowboys, they win outright as an underdog. They were getting a touchdown at home, and the game goes over. So you're right. Oklahoma State, they're right there in position to win the Big 12.
Last night, TCU 38, Kansas State 28. Again, the Frogs find themselves behind, but they find a way to come back and win. Wildcats drop to 5-2. Frogs stay undefeated at 7-0. Adrian Martinez, the transfer from Nebraska to Kansas State, was having just a fairy tale type year. Unfortunately, he went down with an injury in the first quarter. However, the Wildcats stayed in the game, had the lead. Then the backup, Will Howard, he was injured in the third quarter. They had to bring in Jake Rubley. And at that point in time, it was a 31-28 TCU lead. And then Jake threw an interception. And Kansas State just never could find their footing again, even though Howard did end up coming back into the game. Max Duggan, what can you say about this guy? 17 of 26, 280 yards, 3 touchdowns, a 193 QB rating for the night. Sonny Dykes, what a job he has done in his first year in Fort Worth.
Yeah, very solid. I had Kansas State here. One of those things, bad beat. You got Martinez gets knocked out on the first series. That didn't help. Then you got the backup quarterback. But again, they were up, big in the game and couldn't hold it. Regardless, it's just the way it goes. And TCU still unbeaten. And I think their win total was maybe, I'm trying to recall off the top of my head. It might have been 7 or 8. So they're almost there. And Duggan, he's got a legit chance for a Heisman invite up to New York.
I totally agree. And the young man, again, has faced adversity. He's fought back, wasn't the starter. Chandler Marsh goes down in the first game against Colorado, and it's just been a great season for Max Duggan and the Horned Frogs. All right, Mike, hate to end the show on a down note, but, you and I, we're usually kind of puffing our chest out about this time, but not this week. On our picks of the week, we both let's just say we didn't have such a stellar week.
Yep. I had Texas A&M. Probably certainly the last time I'll have them as a favorite. I'm more of an underdog player, but I thought it was a good spot for them, but put a fork in them. They're done. So my picks of the week fall to 4-3, and you're still at 5-2, but Pitt fell short against the Cardinals.
Yeah, I've thought all along that Keaton Slovis, the transfer from Southern Cal, I've thought that he would find his footing and have a breakout game, because we've seen his talent out in Los Angeles. He had a couple of great games for the Trojans when he was out there, but he's just never been able to just look comfortable at Pitt. And Louisville, which again, you don't know what you're going to get from Louisville. It's up one week, down the next week. 24-10, kind of put the game away on a scoop and score late in the fourth quarter. But again, I'll take the loss and vow to do better next week. Let's speaking of next week, Ohio State at Penn State. Buckeyes better be ready to play when they go into Happy Valley, because Urban Meyer, he still has heart palpitations when he thinks what happened to him his, I guess, third year with the Buckeyes, when he thought he was going on his way to his national championship again with the Buckeyes. Arkansas at Auburn, the Harsin watch, it starts again this week. We had a week off of that, but they get back into action this week. Florida, Georgia in Jacksonville for the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, and I will keep saying that regardless of what the politically correct presidents of the university say that we shouldn't say. We all know that's what it is. That's a great time. That's one of those few games that I would actually go to as a fan now. But everyone I've ever talked to that either went there as a fan or went there as a participant, either a player or coach, said it is just an unbelievable atmosphere during this week down in Jacksonville. Kentucky at Tennessee, Mike, this could be a trap game for the Volunteers. They don't need to be looking forward. They need to take care of business this week with the Wildcats. And then Michigan State at Michigan. And the Wolverines, they should win this in their sleep. But listen, Harbaugh, he's had Sparty nightmares before. He needs to guard against that.
Yeah, his record against Michigan State and Ohio State abysmal. Of course, he beat them last year and got off the schneid there. And this Michigan State team is not what they were last year, but still, they're going to be prepared for that. You're spot on about Kentucky, Tennessee. That game means more to Kentucky than it does Tennessee. One thing I'll point out going ahead, Coach, I've seen the look ahead line. Georgia is favored by 11 over Tennessee, so that is a little bit surprising. And then Florida, Georgia. The only thing Florida can do here is play spoiler role, but they've done that in the past, not often, but they have. I think Harsin's going to, on paper, last through the year at Auburn because what else are they're going to do? So I don't think that game's really going to matter. And I guess Penn State will have another, their 20th whiteout in 10 years, and but this Ohio State team, I mean, Iowa takes of course, they turn the ball over 100 times, but Iowa takes the game and cuts it in half, and Ohio State still put up 54.
Yeah, this Buckeye team, Ryan Day, again, you have to respect Urban Meyer and what he was able to come in and accomplish at Ohio State. But it's not like that Urban Meyer came in and the cupboard was bare. Not at all. And then now Ryan Day, he came in and he's picked up where Urban Meyer's left off. But honestly, I don't see a drop off in Ohio State over the last probably 15 years. The thing that I do see, though, from Ohio State is that it seems they almost always lose a game. If they lose a game, it's one that they really shouldn't lose.
Yeah, and remember 2017, even that loss to Iowa probably wouldn't have kept them out of the playoff, but they got drubbed and they quit. They quit in the fourth quarter, and Iowa beat them 55-24 or something, and that's what kept them out and got Alabama in.
Well, Mike, we appreciate your time as always. We'll let you get to your NFL day, and we're going to move on, and we're going to bring in our special guest right after this break on GameDaySportsRadio.com.